time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning and welcome to Storytime. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday to you, wherever you're joining us from today. Welcome to Storytime. Thank you for being here. I hope you're as excited as I am for today's book. And of course, it's been a great week of learning, amazing books that we've had. And today we're saying thank you very much. And this one is by Paul Matsushima and Sophie Wang and Craig ISHII. And story concept is, of course, by Paul Matsushima and illustrated by ZHENG. Good morning to you and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you very much. And we'll be reading this one today. And of course, we're reading it with permission of Kizuna. And you will be learning a little bit more about what Kizuna is about and how you can participate. Thank you so much for joining in today. And of course, we have our special guest that will be joining us today on Storytime. Elaine Hang will be here after the reading to share with us more information about Kizuna and of course talk a little bit about thank you very much. Good morning to you and welcome to Storytime. Happy Friday, and I am so glad that you're here spending part of your day with us here on Storytime. Please, as always, let me know who is joining in with you and where you're joining in from. And of course, if you're joining in alone, you're still very welcome. Storytime is for you, the young and the young at heart. Good morning to you and welcome. Let us see who is with us this morning and excited for our story. Good morning to you, Henry in Harvard. Good to see you. And Nick, good to see you as well. Thank you so much for joining in. Henry and Nick joining us from Harvard, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good to see you. And of course, Marietta, good morning to you as well. Hopefully you get to see this later on. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you, Amanda. How are you doing? You say hello and happy Friday from Nathan and Sarah out in sunny Illinois. Good morning to you and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining us today out in Illinois. How is Illinois today? Sunny, you say. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you, Amanda West, Sarah and Nathan. Good morning to you. Welcome to Storytime. And good morning to you. How are you doing, Ali? Good morning. Good morning. And you say you're here right here in Oakland. And oh my goodness, yes, Lynn. Absolutely one of my favorite people. Lynn, good morning to you. And of course, Ali, good morning to you as well. Looking forward to the year that is coming and hopefully working together. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you, Ali. How are you doing? And I hope you're enjoying your time out here in Oakland. Thank you so much for joining us. Ethan, how are you doing? Joining in with Chavala Jere. How are you out in Lusaka, Zambia? Thank you so much for joining us today. Good morning to you. Oh, and Megan, how are you doing out in Los Angeles? Thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, I was watching the Lakers yesterday. Not a great night, I know, but hopefully this story today lifts us up and gets us back in our groove. Thank you so much for joining in. Megan, good morning to you. How are you doing today? Ellen Edwards in Chicago, good morning to you. Thank you for being here. Happy Friday. And you say sunny Chicago. Well, enjoy it, Ellen. Always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. Yes, Kizuna. We'll definitely be learning a little bit more, and our guest will be here to shed more light on Kizuna. Yes, Ellen Hang will be here with us. So thank you for joining in. Good morning to you, April Booker Osborne. And you're joining in, of course, with Jemison, Alicia, and Lindley out in Orange County. Thank you so much for joining in today. Good to see you back, April, and the crew, Jemison, Alicia, and Lindley in Orange County. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in. Ethan, you're also joined today by Yamikani, of course, and Chavala Jere one more time out in Lusaka, Zambia. Thank you so much for joining us. Salim Pande, how are you doing? Chanda, Pearl, and Mapalo, how are you doing? Daisy, and of course, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us out in Lusaka, Zambia. Hopefully not too cold. I know June can be cold out there. Thank you so much for joining in. Kerry and Lomani Lee in Sacramento, good morning to you. Welcome to Storytime. Thank you for being here. Absolutely appreciate you. I hope you've enjoyed the wonderful books that we've read this week, and of course, the amazing one that we have for you today. I hope you're ready for this one. Thank you very much. And we're reading this one with permission of Kizuna, which we'll be learning about very soon. Good morning to you, JJ and Priska out in Seattle. Thank you so much for joining in. Good to see you here. Janium in the house. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you. And in Carson City, Nevada, how are you doing today? Nikki, please, Nikki, let me know who else is joining you today for story time. Thank you so much for being here. Miss Ingrid, how are you doing out in Patagonia, Argentina? Thank you so much for joining in. Hope the snow is gone. Hope you are warmer today. Thank you so much. And you say, I've learned so much. Well, another interview awaits today. Another great personality is here with us to shed more light on a great organization. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining in, and always appreciate you, Ingrid. How are you doing today? Oh, April, you say I teach fourth grade, so I couldn't during Zoom time. Well, thank you so much. Summer vacation is here. Yes. Oh, April, I will be teaching fourth grade next year too. So definitely a connection right there. Thank you so much for joining in. And I am glad you are here with us today. Enjoy your summer vacation. Good morning to you, Justice. How are you doing today? And I'm so excited to join from Orange County, California. Well, thank you so much for being here. Well, without much ado, before we go into our book, just a quick hello with our guest today. I am going to invite onto the screen right now Elaine Hang to tell you a little bit about herself, and then we'll do the reading, and then afterwards have a little bit more conversation with Elaine. Elaine, good morning to you, and welcome to Storytime.
Thank you, Mr. Lamada. Thank you for having me today. So my name's Elaine Hang, and I am the program coordinator at Kizuna, which is located in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles. So we're really excited to be here and let you know more about us and some of the inspiration behind the story, because 3 of the authors used to work at Kizuna, and they were inspired to write the story from one of the lessons that they taught young children at a local Buddhist temple.
Wow, that is awesome. So yes, stick around. Elaine will be back after the reading. As you can see, more information, exciting information to come. Thank you, Elaine. Catch you in a bit. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and read our book. Thank you very much. Are you ready for this one? Yes, and this one is written by Paul Matsushima, Sophie Wang, and Craig ISHII, and illustrated by ZHENG. And I hope I'm getting those names correctly, but please do bear with me as I try to pronounce them. Thank you so much for joining in. Are you ready for this wonderful story? All right, here we go. Oh, yes. I hope you've brought your hungry stomachs today. There's some mochi to be devoured. Yes. All right. And there's a dedication here on the page. It says, to the generations before who taught us these lessons, and to the generations after who will carry them on. Oh, beautiful. Every December, Kim's family woke up bright and early to go to their family mochitsuki. Time to get up, Kimi heard from downstairs. We're going to Grandma and Grandpa's. Oh, I remember those days. One of my favorites too. Kimi popped out of the covers. Yummy mochi, here I come, she yelled as she jumped out of bed. Oh. As the family buckled up for the long drive, Kimi's mom asked, what's the first thing you're going to do when we get there, Kimi? Oh, I'm gonna make the biggest mochi ever, Kimi said. And I want to put shoyu on it, and furikake, and red beans. Oh, sounds delicious. Kimi's family finally arrived, but as I walked up to the house, Kimi noticed that something was wrong. Oh no, what was it? Grandma was holding the front door open. The uncles and aunties were rushing in and out of the kitchen, and the cousins were fanning smoke out of the windows. What's happening? Kimi asked. What was happening? The mochi-machine is broken, yelled Grandma as Kimi and her parents rushed into the house. Kimi's face fell. Oh, does that mean mochitsuki is cancelled? She worried. Oh, just then they heard a voice from the backyard yell, out here! Oh, who's out there? It was Grandpa. Follow me, he said, gesturing toward the garage. Our machine may be broken, but I have something better. Oh, what could be better than a mochi machine, Grandpa? As the family headed over, Kimi wondered, but how can you make mochi without a machine? I sure hope this works. Me too, Kimi. Me too. Grandpa pointed to a stone ball and a few wooden mallets in the corner as the family squeezed into the garage. When I was little, this piece of rock and these hunks of wood were all we had to make our mochi with, he said, chuckling. Are you in for a treat or what? Can we really make mochi with those? Kimi asked doubtfully. Of course we can, Grandpa replied. Help me move everything to the backyard, and I will show you just how we'll do it. Oh. The mochitsuki tools were heavy, but everyone did their part. The cousins lugged the wooden mallets, while it took all the aunties and uncles to carry the giant stone ball. Grandpa led the parade with shamoji in hand, explaining how to set everything up. Grandma handed Kimi the pot of mochi-gome. You get to carry a very important ingredient, Kimi. After all, you can't make mochi without the rice, she said, smiling. Okay, I will be careful, Kimi giggled. Heavy responsibility, Kimi. Outside, Grandpa picked up one of the tall mallets. He leaned over to Kimi and said, the last time I made mochi this way, this kine was taller than me. Kine? Kimi asked. Ah, yes. Kine are the mallets we use to pound the mochi, Grandpa said. My father told me to remember it this way. The kine are skinny, like skinny. Get it? I can't believe I haven't used these since I was a boy, he chuckled. Kimi giggled. She couldn't imagine Grandpa as a little kid. Oh. As they set up the stone ball, Grandpa explained, the mochi is pounded in this ball called an usu. We remember this once as, ooh, super heavy. Great way to remember it. In my day, we didn't have fancy mochi making machines. If we wanted to eat mochi, we had to work all day long for it, he continued. Whoa, all day, Kimi thought. She never realized how easy she had it. Now we pound the rice, Grandpa said. My father told me that we count off in Japanese to make sure no one gets hurt. All right, let me try and count in Japanese here. Ichi, ni, san, shi. Ichi, ni, san, shi. The four cousins yelled as they took their turn. Ichi, ni, san, shi. Kimi and Grandpa shouted as they took their turn. Wow, Kimi thought as her arms started to tire. This is a lot of work. Good thing everybody is here to help. Absolutely. On to the next step, Grandpa said, sending the family inside to mold stuff and package the mochi. Kimi stayed with Grandpa to pound the last batches. As wood from the kine flaked into the rice, she asked, should I take these wood chips out? Grandpa chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. No, no, no. As my father always said, the wood flakes and sweat are where the flavor comes from. As the sun set, Kimi looked inside, eyes wide open at the mochi they had made. You know, Kimi, there's one ingredient we couldn't have made this mochi without, Grandpa said. Can you guess what it is? The rice? Kimi asked. Grandpa shook his head. The kine and usu? The shoyu and red beans? Grandpa shook his head again. Nope. If it's not the rice or the kine and usu or the shoyu and red beans, what could it be? Kimi asked. Oh, Kimi. Family, Kimi thought about Grandpa's answer as she looked around. She thought about how close she felt with her whole family after working alongside them. Without family, there would be no mochitsuki. Family really was the most important ingredient. Oh my goodness. This book is going straight for my heart. You know, Kimi, it doesn't matter what kind of tools we use to make mochi, Grandpa said softly. It's about doing it together. My family passed that lesson on to me, and I hope one day you will pass it on to your family too. Kimi hugged Grandpa. Okay, Grandpa, I will. After cleaning up, Kimi and Grandpa went back inside. Kimi grabbed a piece of warm, soft mochi and smiled at all the people in the room. After a long day working together, she had a greater appreciation for not just mochitsuki, but for her family. Oh. And there you go. Oh. What will you do to carry on Grandpa's message for the next generation? Yes, that is a question for each and everyone out there. The end. Oh, thank you so much for joining in for that lovely story, heartwarming story, beautiful story indeed. And I hope you learned a thing or two. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It gets better every time I read it. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of this community. Well, now we're going to bring on our guest to help us unpack this book and also share a little bit more information about Kizuna. Yes, Elaine, welcome back.
Hi, hello. It's such a great story. It hits me every time. Every time.
Oh my goodness. It does. It does. Absolutely. You know, like where Grandpa talks about the flakes getting into the flakes and sweat getting into the food.
Yeah.
It reminds me of growing up. We would make this drink called munkoyo. I'm sure all the Zambians who are out there listening right now know exactly what it is. It's a kind of a drink made out of cornmeal. But every now and then, especially if you add sugar ahead of time, ants would get in. But there'll be too many at times for you to pick out each one. And I remember my mom telling me, like, oh yeah, no, ants are good for the stomach. And so I just drank it that way as a kid. It's just like, oh yeah, they're ants, fine. They're good for the stomach. But so that connection was there for me as I was reading that. But yes, Elaine, tell us about this book. I mean, you've already said like it's beautiful. It hits you every time. How does it do that?
Yeah, I think it's the overall like story of just about like family coming together to make a good meal. And really, I think it's one of those things where I'm part of obviously the younger end of my cousins. I have many cousins. So I typically am responsible for setting up a dinner table, right? But I don't necessarily take a lot of responsibility with the cooking, and the small parts that I do with cooking, I do with other family members. So we all kind of like, typically on a regular year, we'll be like together doing very small parts, putting together maybe garnishes or like side dishes. And then some of the bigger kids will be responsible for making like the bulk of it. So the mochi in this case. So that's what it reminds me of. It's just kind of family memories about trying to put together a really big dinner party. So all the kids have small responsibilities that work up to a larger platter that we can all enjoy.
Right. No, that is so it's so important. I think you see the appreciation that Kimi has at the end of it all, and appreciating also how you know, like it was hard work, and you earned it. Yeah.
That was a huge inspiration for writing this book. Was actually back in like the early 2000s, or like not even early 2000s, sorry, early 2010. So like 2011 was when Kizuna was founded. So we're actually 10 years old this year.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
We turned 10 years old. A lot of our young children who participated in like lessons on the weekend to like learn about these kinds of traditions, some of them have only ever made mochi with a machine. So they've never done the old school style where they have to like pound it with the mallet. And it was like their very first time. It's like, yeah, after about 100 years ago, this is how people would always do it all the time. But now we have the comfort of machines to make everything a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge lesson of just like, wow, a lot of our elders did so much work, and like they put so much time into making food and making sure that people like eat and feel the love when they eat.
Right.
So yeah, that was like a huge part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know, like, even just, I remember, you know, like, because we didn't always buy things like peanut butter, and I remember being able to, you know, roast peanuts and then put them in the you know, like little mortar and just pound them and come up with your peanut butter. And yeah, that was exciting. I remember doing that because it was not always that you could afford to get it. But then, of course, with later on, you're like, oh yeah, we can, you know, you can buy that over these machines that people use. But there's definitely fun and community to be built in doing that. So looking at the book and what it does, you know, building community, talking about generations and so on, how does that tie in with Kizuna, or what is Kizuna?
Yeah, so Kizuna is a community organization that was founded in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, for the Japanese American community to make sure that in future years, people can still come to Little Tokyo and feel all of the history of like 100 plus years of people putting in the time and effort to grow businesses, to make fun events that everyone can enjoy outside of the Japanese American community. Will still be around, and that's where a lot of the efforts Kizuna puts in comes from. So our mission is to build a future for our community through education, empowerment, and engagement of young people. So like anyone as little as 5 to 7, all the way throughout their university years, and sometimes even past university years. So that's our mission, and that's what we want to do, is to like realize that some of the people who volunteer with us are actually teaching the next generation for so many years of their life. They're like, you're the next generation. You are the ones who are going to be carrying this, the community.
Yeah.
And then they meet people younger than them. And then it's like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm not the next generation anymore. They're the next generation. So we have to keep going.
Yeah. But also, you know, like, so like you said, and correct me if I didn't get this correctly, but you're saying, so it's meant to serve the Japanese community.
Yes.
Is this to help the young Japanese kids learn how to perform these, carry these traditions on? But then is it also at the same time meant to work to share it with the greater community?
Yes. So a lot of the beauty of our work is basically if you are interested in learning about Japanese Americans in history, the way that you learn about these people and their culture and their heritage, you can use that to learn about other people and their cultures and heritages. So that's why our program, even though we primarily were at the beginning really focused on Japanese American communities and service and lessons, it's open to anybody who has an open heart and open mind to come in, play games with us, learn more about these traditions, learn new vocabulary, and connect. Because I've always find it exciting. Like, I'm not Japanese American, I'm Vietnamese American, but I find it exciting to learn like new terms that people in Japan or even people who haven't been home to Japan in many years, like their generations removed, they still have that connection, because I see that in my community and culture. So yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, you know, you mentioned all those things that that can be done over there, that the goals that Kizuna has. But what does success look like for you? Or would you say Kizuna is successful? And how does that success look like? Sure. Oh my gosh. I think success for us looks like when any of our participants grows up with a strong sense of self-identity. So they have a strong assurance that they are confident enough, capable enough to do whatever they put their mind to. And so that's a huge measure of success, is like a strong sense of self-identity, and then a strong sense of basically community mindedness. So that means like they grow up and they want to give back to the community. They want to do volunteer work outside of their studies. Like they make time to make friends, help out their elders, volunteer back at Kizuna or our partners. So that's like two major markers of success for us. It's more just like making sure that our participants feel like they are completely able to do what they want to do to make the world a better place.
Better place. Oh, I love that. But then also you mentioned participants, and you mentioned that it's open, people can take part. So, you know, like, how can people take part? Where, you know, like, say, for example, somebody lives far away, or, you know, like they're trying to figure out, it's like, oh, this is sounds like a great program. How can I be involved?
Sure. So what's kind of amazing about this pandemic time is that, unfortunately, yes, in-person things are more closed down, but with virtual, technically anyone in the world can connect with us. And we are going to continue our virtual programming this year. So we have an elementary school program. So that's children through 2nd to 8th grade. So bleeds into middle school as well. And it's virtual, which means anyone from anywhere in the world who are interested can join our program, can sign up, and we will send them a small care package of small materials that we have for the fun activities that we will do throughout the summer, which includes crafts, museum virtual visit, a lot of games, a little bit of like dancing and small exercises. So with virtual, the world kind of opens up to all of us.
All of us, absolutely. And hopefully before you go, we'll give you some time to just type into the chat some a link to the Kizuna website or somewhere where people can then dive into that material. But so, and I've heard too that Kizuna is expanding. So where is this expansion happening? And and how can people in those new areas benefit from the program?
Of course. Kizuna, we're always trying to grow as much as we also love to grow ourselves and grow our participants. Right now, we have a whole pipeline. So that means like you can be a lifelong Kizuna supporter and participants starting from second grade all the way through your final year of university. That's one way we've been like growing, is to like make sure that people feel like they can come back to us and rely on us at any point in their life and find something new and exciting to participate with. And we also have some efforts to reach out to our friends in Northern California. There is a university college internship opportunity where people from Los Angeles and people from San Jose and San Francisco can come together and exchange stories about what's it like to be young college students trying to figure out their plans for the future and how they would like to continue being community servants as they grow up.
You're right. No, that's so wonderful. And you personally, how has Kizuna helped you in the time you've been with them, or in the time you knew about it? How did you know about Kizuna, and how has that helped you?
Okay, it's really funny. So the first time I ever heard about Kizuna was in my college internship. So I was interning with an organization called Cause, and they brought us around to Little Tokyo to take a tour of the little neighborhood, and we got to meet community leaders, which includes one of the authors of the book, Craig Ishii.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he did this kind of like fun quiz about like what kind of leadership personality are you? So he like played a small game with us in a lot of ways, and I thought that was like super fun, and I kept them in the back of my mind for a long time. And then one day, I didn't know this, but I started to work with a community art space. So they back in the day, put on shows for free outside in the summer for people to listen to music and poetry and like anybody who wants to share stories. And that community art organization called Tuesday Night Project didn't have an office. So they don't have like a home base to go to. And Kizuna actually offers their own conference room space for people who don't have offices, but still are like community organizations to come and meet and work on plans. So that's one of the ways that I got to know Kizuna and how I kind of heard that they were looking for someone to work with young children. And I mostly have work with young middle schoolers. So,
Oh, awesome. And what have been the benefits to you? Like, what are some things, you mentioned a bit of connections, that you made with your own culture, your own family. What are some of those, what are some other benefits that you've had, like just by being in and around Kizuna?
I think being in Kizuna, like I get to write the lessons that we teach. And even though I am not Japanese American, learning from what people have written before and talking to our longtime volunteers who deeply love the organization, I am just finding a way to talk about culture in a respectful manner, in an empathetic manner that allows me to, I think, dive deeper with my friends and new people that I thought I understood, but obviously I still just like, I'm so curious about the world and I still always want to learn more. I've also mentioned in our own conversations that I love vocabulary. I love learning new words. It's part of like reading, right?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do on my off time is to learn how, I guess, the Japanese terms for something might connect to the language that I know, Vietnamese. And for example, the word for gratitude, kansha, if it's written a certain way, it actually almost directly connects to the way that Vietnamese people say thank you.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. I mean, like I was mentioning too, like just the word itself, Kizuna, What does that mean, first of all?
Yeah. Kizuna means bonds. So that's like connection between people, connection between place and people. So bonds are actually, if anybody gets an opportunity to see our logo, there is a little circle with a knot. And that knot is called the friendship knot. And there's a little statue of it in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I was just thinking, I wanted you to give the definition first before I talked about my connection with it. Every time I see it, it's so closely spelt with how we say in one of the languages in Zambia called Nyanja, how you say sweetness or kunzuna. So it's like when I see it, it kind of reminds me of that every time. But yeah.
Yeah, that one vowel, the kun, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But yeah, and Elaine, so before we let you go, just one more time, like what's the vision? Why Kizuna? Why should parents out there listening in? Why should everybody who's watching you right now be looking into this program?
Sure. I think it's we really want to emphasize that our program is not like summer school. It is an opportunity to learn about history and culture and heritage, specifically on the Japanese American community. However, we don't want it to be summer school. We try to make sure we're playing a lot of fun games. We're doing a lot of arts and crafts. So the way that we engage with our students is going to be through fun and games. A lot of our counselors love talking to our campers, so that's where we love to build that like one-on-one connection, so that people know that there's always somebody who's willing to help them grow and like follow them throughout their growth in life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And this book, where can people find Thank You Very Mochi?
Sure. So unfortunately, Kizuna has ran out of our book. However, if you can still find a copy, I would suggest for any Oakland folks, East Winds Books in Berkeley actually might still have it in stock. You will have to ask them. Otherwise, we have you can order from the Japanese American National Museum. They have a great stock left. And yeah, we'll hopefully do another round of printing. We'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for all your support.
No, it is such a lovely book. Such, so heartwarming, and really like I felt connected to it. And you can see, I think, the vision that connecting generations, connecting cultures really comes out, because teaching a human being or teaching to be a good human being does not mean only teaching in a particular language in a particular culture. I think it's cross-cultural, like somebody mentioned. I think it was Justice that mentioned that. Definitely is cross-cultural. There being, there's so many things that hard work, family and community, all those things translate into whatever culture you're in or you're from. And so I really appreciate this book, and I hope that there's more prints come out and more people have access to this book. It's definitely one, and if teachers out there listening, definitely one to have for aligning with certain lessons in the classroom. But thank you so much, Elaine, for being here with us today and for all the great information and, of course, helping us unpack. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Lamata. I hope you come back again sometime or continue supporting.
Yes, no, absolutely. Absolutely. No, we hope to have you back, and, even just tell us when new programs are happening at Kizuna, things that we can help share here and help amplify. Please, absolutely let me know. And and hopefully when next time we're talking, there'll be more in print.
Alrighty. Thank you, everyone who's watching. I hope everyone is enjoying from Zambia all the way through Los Angeles. That's amazing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely cross-cultural for sure. Oh, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I've been joined today by the amazing Elaine Hang from Kizuna, and you got to hear a little bit more information about them. And thank you so much for joining me. This has been Story Time for this week. Great stories. Please go back and check out some of them that we're able to record and listen and learn. And of course, transmit that message, pass it on to others that have not heard it. Thank you so much for joining in today. And of course, join me next week for more stories and of course, many great learning as well, and awesome guests coming as well. So thank you so much. And Elaine, we're going to say goodbye, and I will see you next week. Much love from me. And of course, Elaine, who is joining me today, we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time today.
Story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. He brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing. But story time. Story time. Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. He brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be